Hello everybody from Plant Reviews UK. Today is the 18th of April. I'm talking now about a beautiful magnolia. I recently purchased Magnolia Loebneri Magnolia cross Loebner Merrill. This is a hybrid between Magnolia stellata and Magnolia kobus, two species originating from Japan. Magnolia stellata is one of the most common magnolias you can find in garden centers. Magnolia kobus is definitely rarer to find, and this hybrid is not very common. In the garden centers I visited in the past weeks, I found only two garden centers having this beautiful hybrid, and actually even more than beautiful, because the flowers kind of resemble quite a bit Magnolia stellata. The difference to me is the fragrance, that in this hybrid is definitely a lot more intense than in Magnolia stellata. Actually, Magnolia stellata I can't detect any fragrance. Instead, this one I can smell a beautiful fragrance of melon. It's very peculiar. Do not think about a plant that can perfume your whole garden. The fragrance is quite light, and I still need to really stick my nose in the flower to detect it, but definitely the flower is fragrant. So, and I love it, the fragrance. It is very similar to the Calycanthus Venus, that at the moment is putting the new leaves, so very still bare, without any leaves or any flower. Instead, this Magnolia stellata, this Magnolia Loebneri the cross with stellata and kobus is already in bloom. This hybrid was developed by Garteninspektor, that is a German word, I believe, for garden director, Max Loebner of Pillnitz in Germany, shortly before World War One. It first flowered in 1917, and the tree is a deciduous tree. Indeed, as you can see, there's almost no leaves yet. They are just starting sprouting now, and this is a multi-stemmed shrub. Actually, magnolias, I found that they are all shrubs, because they don't have really a direct line towards, like upwards. They basically are multi-stem, so even if they can really become giant plants over 30 meters, they are actually some of the species. They are actually shrubs and not trees, at least most of them. This is what I found in the information about magnolias. And as I was saying, this hybrid can grow as a very large shrub. It can become up to 6 meters tall, even if it's very slow growing. And the size really is in between Magnolia stellata, that is quite a short species, usually 2-3 meters tall, and Magnolia kobus, that can actually reach over 8-9 meters tall. However, considering that I have a small garden, I'm definitely not having it as a tree. I will keep it pruned to a maximum height, or probably 2.5 meters, 3 meters at the most. And well, I will keep you obviously updated about how my cultivation of this plant is going. And now I'm just presenting this plant as a purchase, so I can't really tell first-hand cultivation at the moment, like I did, for example, yesterday with my very fragrant Viburnum cross Barkwoodii that I have from about 4 years now. However, considering that this is one of the most beautiful fragrances I have in the garden, I really decided to make a video about it. The plant is hardy. It's actually very hardy, down to USDA 4, so definitely can be cultivated throughout the whole UK. That usually is in USDA zones between 7 and 9, and also can be cultivated basically in most of the temperate climate countries, and actually some that experience pretty cold winters as well. As I said, the flowers are fragrant and produces a lot of flowers. maybe a little bit less than Magnolia stellata. Usually I find Magnolia stellata completely covered in flowers. However, this is quite a young plant anyway. It's quite a short plant anyway, so hopefully it will become more profuse in blooming in the next few years. Anyway, as you can see, I have a few beautiful flowers already open and some still in bud. The flower itself is quite big, is over 10 centimeters in diameter. Obviously, do not think about the size of Magnolia grandiflora. However, it is actually a quite big flower, and really I think that is over 10 centimeters, probably almost 13 or 14 centimeters in diameter. The color is white. There is a kind of pinkish stripe in the middle, and the base of the flower as well is kind of pinkish. However, the flower in the inner part is white as well as, so you can see the inner part of the tepals of the flowers are white. Magnolias are very primitive plants, so they don't really have a difference between sepals and petals, so the structures of the flower are called tepals, and this is a feature that many primitive plants have, like water lilies, the nymphaeas, as well as some more evolved plants, like for example lilies, tulips, or daffodils, in which petals and sepals actually resembles each other. Magnolias are actually some of the most primitive plants, and one of the features that they are so primitive indeed is that they don't have a clear definition of between petals and sepals, even if again this is a feature that later evolved again in plants that are much more recent in origination, in origin, sorry. And also the typical Magnolias are actually pollinated by beetles, because when Magnolias evolved, I found that they started evolving about 95 million years ago. There were already Magnolias that can be classified as Magnolias already 95 million years ago, so about 30 million years before the dinosaur went extinct. So actually Magnolias were already around when dinosaurs were still roaming the earth. Well, bees and butterflies have not evolved yet back then, so the only insects that were around were beetles and flies. The only insects that actually could function as pollinators, as this is what we know. And actually it was found that yeah, beetles were carrying magnolia pollen already back then, I believe in some fossils in amber. So it is definitely an interesting plant to have in the garden, not only for the beautiful flowers and because they are beautiful trees, but also because really is a piece of natural history in your garden. Going back to the blooming again, to the blooms. This flower blooms in early spring, a little bit later than Magnolia stellata, so usually the flowers are not damaged by frost as often as Magnolia stellata. The flowers, as I said, are fragrant, and the fragrance kind of reminds me a melon, so it's really fruity fragrance, very nice. Again, the fragrance is not very intense. You have to stick your nose in the flower to appreciate it, but it is definitely absolutely a beautiful scent. The plant thrives in full sun and moist soil, well drained and acidic as most magnolias. There are different varieties, different cultivars of Magnolia across Loebneri, and as mentioned at the start of the video, I have the variety Merrill, or cultivar Merrill as you prefer. And even if it's here that it says that the height in after 10 years about 2 meters, cross 1.5 meters. I found that the final size can be actually over 6 meters, so you remember that it can be quite a big tree if you have a small garden, so keep it pruned accordingly. Or as I am planning to do, I keep it in a pot, obviously a bit bigger than this, and then prune it accordingly. Merrill is a cultivar with these beautiful white flowers, pinkish at the base and with a kind of very light pink stripe on the petals. However, there are other cultivars of Loebneri with different colors, some completely white and some of a beautiful pink. I'm not too sure about the fragrance of these other cultivars because the garden centers didn't have any other cultivars of Loebneri for sale and or in bloom anyway, and yeah, I tried to find other cultivars and they didn't even have the plant for sale, so I can't tell how the fragrance is in the other varieties. However, this cultivar is dedicated to Elmer Merrill. Elmer Merrill was a former director of the Arnold Arboretum at Harvard University, and this this cultivar was bred by Karl Sax. This variety is again a beautiful and very floriferous variety. I found on internet that this cultivar is considered actually the most prolific bloomers of all the Magnolia Loebneri. But again, I can't tell by my experience because this is the only cultivar I found for sale in the garden centers I visited. What I can tell that all the plants that were in flower of this variety have the same beautiful fragrance of melon. So this is a plant that you can really rely on about the fragrance. However, I still recommend, before buying a fragrant plant, really the ideal way to choose a fragrant plant is to smell it, because what is a beautiful fragrance to me, or a fragrance that I can detect maybe is not a so nice fragrance to another person, or another person cannot detect it at all, or sometimes can detect it a lot more intensely than I can, and this obviously can affect how much you like or dislike a plant. However, in my opinion, fruity fragrances are the kind of fragrances that are liked by the majority of people. Some very sweet fragrances can actually be a bit disturbing, like kind of sicklish, but this fruity fragrance, and also considering how liked it is, I'm sure, will be delightful for every person in your garden, especially considering how light it is. If a person doesn't really like fragrances, can just not smell the flowers, and I doubt that any person would be able to smell these flowers further than say 50 centimeters far from the plant. At least this is my opinion. Again, sensitive noses might detect the fragrance a lot better, but in my opinion this is definitely one of the weakest fragrances among plants I have in the garden, even if it's definitely one of the best for the quality of the scent. I love this melon fragrance. Again, very easy to grow as most magnolias, as long as you keep the soil moist and acidic and well drained, full sun, as I said, and this plant is hardy down to USDA 4, so basically is an ideal plant for most countries in temperate and also pretty cold climate. As usual, I hope that you enjoyed the video. Thank you very much for watching. If you like this video, it would be great if you can please give a thumbs up to the video, and if you like this video and the other videos on my channel, would be great if you can please subscribe. It is completely free for you, but in this way you acknowledge YouTube that you like my channel and my videos, and YouTube in turn can support me and promote my channel on the platform. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope to see you next time. Bye.